Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about debate questions. So we got through the first two before I interrupted. Doc, keep going.
All right. Secretary Clinton, you're calling for a tax increase on the wealthiest Americans. I'd like you to further defend that. And Mr. Trump, you're calling for tax cuts for the wealthy. I'd like you to defend that. And this next 2-minute answer goes to you, Mr. Trump.
Fair question. Both sides.
I don't think that's fair because, and hear me out, because I can see you chomping at the bit. One, well, you're calling for tax increase on Americans and everybody should pay their fair share. But Mr. Trump, you want to give the wealthy a tax break when in fact, he has said several times, I want to give a tax break to everybody. My tax breaks across the board. And that is exactly what he said. I think it's an unfair question. It's a leading question. That's what I think. So,
but he does want to give a tax break to the wealthy.
Yeah, but he wants to give a tax break to everybody else as well, not just the wealthy. If he was talking about, well, discuss your tax plan, that's one thing. But throwing in, well, the wealthy and creating a class system.
It's still fair because you have a situation where, hey, Hillary Clinton, you want to raise taxes on the wealthy. Donald Trump, you want to cut taxes on the wealthy. It's 1-to-1.
Well, anyway, you and I will disagree on that. Mr. Trump, we're talking about the burden that Americans have to pay, yet you have not released your own tax return, and the reason nominees have released their returns for decades is so that voters will know if their potential president owes money to, who he owes it to, and any business conflicts. Don't Americans have a right to know if there are any conflicts of interest?
Fair question.
All right. The question is fair. The lead up to it is slanted. And then he got interrupted a lot. Lester Holt did.
Yep.
And at one point he said, so releasing your tax returns is negotiable. And to it, Trump replied, well, I'll release my tax returns when Hillary releases the emails, which out of the entire debate that I saw, and I'll admit I missed the first minute, about a minute, 2 minutes, is the only time the entire audience went, yay! Right?
Well, close to the end. They Hillary got him a couple of times, especially on the preparation question.
Yes,
her folks in the room nailed him, got him on that one.
You're right, and that was the line of the night.
Yep.
Even though Trump had some pretty good lines, and Hillary had a couple of good lines, the line was that one. And then we talked about the email stuff, and then race in America. Mm-hmm. Americans, the share of Americans who say race relations are bad in this country is the highest it's been in decades, which is true. Mm-hmm. Much of it amplified by shootings of African Americans by police, as we've seen recently in Charlotte and Tulsa.
Yep.
Race has been a big issue in this campaign, and one of you is going to have to bridge a very wide and bitter gap. So how do you heal the divide?
Fair question.
Fair question. Secretary Clinton, last week, you said we've got to do everything possible to improve policing to go right at implicit bias. Do you believe that police are implicitly biased against black people?
Fair question.
All right, fair question. Mr. Trump, for 5 years, you perpetuated a false claim that the nation's first black president was not a natural-born citizen. You questioned his legitimacy. In the last couple of weeks, you acknowledge what most Americans have accepted for years: the president was born in the U.S. Can you tell us what took so long?
Fair question.
That's a fair question. So the question is, what changed your mind about the birth certificate? That's a fair question.
It's a fair question. And so the commentary there has been all about, well, he got into that, but he didn't get into the emails. Keep in mind, Donald Trump, I think, took 20 minutes almost to answer, to give some kind of an answer. And while Holt was trying to move on to other stuff, I am positive, given the fact that when he made the comment about the emails, Lester Holt says, and we'll talk about the emails, Senator Clinton, what do you think about the emails? There would have been more follow up there, I think. We have no real way of knowing that.
Yes,
the record is what it is.
Yes, and the problem is a lot of these questions they start and then interrupted by Trump.
Yep,
and we get back to it's the Uncle Joe method of debate, and it's taken from Bill Clinton, who has famously said it is hard to win a debate when there is a fist in your mouth. He doesn't mean literal fist; he means a verbal fist. And so I personally, I think that's what Trump was doing.
Well, you don't interrupt the moderator, though. I mean, that's how you get off track. That's how you.
Yeah, that's how Trump honestly gets in trouble. And everybody's talking about, high school debate. In high school, it wouldn't have gone like this. They would have had a different set of rules. Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes and the same question. Our secrets are being stolen. We're being hacked and left and all that. My question is, who's behind it and how do we fight it?
Fair, but kind of dumb.
It is
because no, I mean we suspect that it's certain people, but it's kind of, I mean, how are we supposed to answer? How is he supposed to answer that question? He's getting
either one of them.
Yeah, they're both getting security briefings, but they're definitely not getting the full gamut of what the president would know at this point.
Well, yeah, and that's true. So how do you know who's behind it? I don't know.
Yeah,
nobody knows.
It's a fair question, but I think it's designed. It's a fair question, but I think it was wanting to segue into getting into some of his comments about Putin and getting going into the foreign policy side of things.
Okay, you mentioned ISIS, and we think ISIS is certainly over there, but there are American citizens who have been inspired to commit acts of terror on American soil. Latest incident, of course, bombings we just saw in New York and New Jersey.
Yep. The
knife attack in Minnesota. Last year in San Bernardino and Orlando. I'll ask this of both of you. Tell us specifically how you prevent homegrown attacks by American citizens.
Absolutely fair question.
Yeah.
I don't know how you answer that one either, but it's an absolutely fair question.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to keep everybody up at night.
Yep. Why is your judgment on the Iraq War any different than Mrs. Clinton's judgment? Now, a lot of people on the right have been screaming this unfair question. I'm getting back to a point I've made. Donald Trump set himself up for these kind of questions. If he would simply stuck to the subject instead of wandering around about ISIS, this question, you could then go, yeah, that's pretty unfair. But he opened himself up to it.
Except that he goes around complaining about Hillary Clinton's support for the war when he supported the war previously. So,
but we can debate that, but that's not necessarily true.
It is true.
He was against the war for a long time. There was an interview by Howard Stern where he said, well, I really don't know. I probably would go for it.
Yeah, but I don't run the war basically right before it got started. He cites the Atlantic article, the Atlantic magazine article from 2004, a full year after the war was already in motion. As now he's been against it for the entire time. The Atlantic comes out and says, hey, look, when we did this interview that he wrote. This is not the tenor of it.
Let's get to that to the next segment then. Which leads my next question on nuclear weapons. Oh, we were just talking about
that.
Yeah. Reported considering changing the nation's longstanding policy on first use to support the current policy. I think that's absolutely
fair question.
Yeah, you need to ask that. This year, Secretary Clinton became the first woman nominated for president by either party. Earlier this month, you said she doesn't have, quote, a presidential look. She's standing right here now. What did you mean by that?
Okay.
I don't think here's my take. I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't think it was fair to either party.
Well,
I mean, honest to God, why are we even talking about how she looks?
But see, it's the Tim Pawlenty thing. Well, first of all, Trump brought it up, but it's the Tim Pawlenty question, where a debate moderator in 2012 said, hey, Governor Pawlenty, you've been going after Mitt Romney for days and days on the campaign trail about how terrible his health care plan in Massachusetts was. Now that it's the Affordable Care Act, do you care to address that with him directly? And Tim Pawlenty said no. So in the spirit of we want to see him mix it up, I think it's once again, I think it's fair because he said it. He's asking about things that he said, but it's just kind of dumb. Except it's not you're not learning anything new because we already know what Trump thinks about Hillary Clinton. We know what Trump has said about women. We know that already. Yeah. Whether or not that's what he actually thinks, I don't care. He said that he said it.
Right. Let's get to the
gets
last
us nowhere.
Question. One of you will not win this election. Now that's Captain Obvious statement. So my final question to you tonight: are you willing to accept the outcome as the will of the voters?
Absolutely fair question.
Fair.
Yep.
Now we're right up against a break. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to be back after this break. What do you want to tackle?
Oh, anything? Well, now let's get into some of those responses.
All right, we're going to talk about some of the responses to these questions. We're going to talk about where Trump could have done better, where Hillary could have done better, and we'll be back right after this break. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We couldn't do what we